So, ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to be looking at a game that I think is emblematic of a lot of problems in indie gaming, and the indie game scene, indie game culture, indie game critique, and also in the world and realm of independent video games. Now, the software I'm referring to, though it may seem like it from the first, let's say, minute of this video, is not in fact Steam itself, but rather a game which is purchasable and downloadable, and even installable and playable through the Steam platform for video game software. And that is beatcop.app, published by 11-Bit Studios, made by Pixel Crow. It has this title screen. There's music on the title screen. There's music here when you start the game, and it does a little cutscene. During which, by the way, there are 10 million men running across the screen that you don't see in the background there. So it makes your computer melt, because it's trying to process 10 billion things. Even though the game itself is very minimal, and it doesn't even get that much mileage off of, the billions of objects it's forcing into your RAM. And making your CPU process. Anyway, that's not the problem. I mean, poor optimization is a problem, and it's a big problem in indie games, and the indie game scene, and indie gaming, and in the indie game community, and in indie game critique, but it's not the biggest problem. What I'm talking about is, right here, today I'm going to have to do some parking tickets. I'm going to try and have to find a cream-colored 1984 Boxer Mini whatever the fuck. I'm a traffic cop in this game. Now here's the problem. You just get these assignments, right? And it's like, oh, you gotta go do the assignment. And it looks cool. Look at it. It's like sword and sorcery kind of art style, but not with gradients. And you have, a million people running around the screen. Again, it's poorly optimized. Your computer's gonna melt. When you do a ticket, the people will try and bribe you. Now, you have alimony you have to pay. For some reason, that is more than the amount of money that you actually earn. That doesn't make sense in the real world, and it's not in fact a real world thing, but it is how the game works. And so, the only way you can actually make enough money to do that is to accept bribes. You see, it's a big problem. This is one of those games that I purchased this thinking it was going to be like Papers, Please, or like Cart Life, where it's like, oh, you just live out the life of this character who's like one of a million people you see every day, a police officer that you maybe don't empathize with the way you could, and you learn, well, oh, these guys, they've got a rough life, they don't make enough money, they got quotas to fill, there's all types of pressures on them that they're under. It's a big deal, it's not that easy. It's not that easy to do the game, and it's not that easy to do in real life. But the problem is that in real life you don't have to make alimony payments that are more money than you're making per month. It's like part of your salary or some shit. That is like what you have to pay your ex-wife. And in this game, even when you make bonuses, you can't do it. So that's already just automatically dumb. Because it's like, well, you're not showing me the reality of the situation. You're just showing me, like, something that you designed that obviously and really, really blatantly and without any subtlety is trying to show me, like, oh, it's a rough life. These guys, they got, real lives outside of this job, and they gotta do all this shit. But they don't fucking make it a real thing. Anyway, that's just part of it. And it's like, the bribes, I don't like it. I don't like it, because it's really not even that hard, this game. If you just give 1 million parking tickets and then get bribes, and, but fill your quota legit every day, like, you can be fine, and it's not a big deal. But it's like, well, I'm not going to do that, because I'm going to try and play this game and have some integrity, right? I'm going to try and roleplay this. So that's what I'm doing when I'm playing this game, is I'm refusing these bribes. I'm trying to be a good police officer. Now, there's another whole aspect of this game that I don't even think we're going to get into that much. No, we are going to get into it later, so I'll save it for later. Anyway, I'm just writing tickets for parking violations. I'm post-commentating this, by the way, because I recorded this thinking that I was going to be like, okay, this is my last session playing this game, because I don't like it that much. so I'm going to record it so that I'll have something to talk over when I want to talk about this game and why it has so many problems. Anyway, this is the thing I want to talk about video games and indie games, is that we expect indie games to be these things that present, like, new ideas with unique gameplay elements, right? And, like, that's what this game is trying to do, and it gets praised for that. It won, apparently, like, 10 million awards, but, like, it's got no music during this section, unless you, like, walk past someone who's playing, like, a 1-second loop on their radio. It's like, there's a million cars, and it melts your computer. It's poorly optimized. The gameplay is completely boring. I mean, just look at, it's just this over and over again, right? And it's like, oh, but in the real world, the cop's job is not that exciting. It's like, well, maybe, I mean, like, I get it, but, I mean, every day, like, you can convey, like, in Papers, Please, there's, like, a mind-numbing element to that game, and you understand that it would be, like, rough trying to work like a job like that every single day, but then there are moments, there are peaks and valleys, there are moments where suddenly you're faced with a conflict, like a moral conflict, or even a physical conflict that you have to overcome. Now, hang on. This is meant to be one of these peaks of this game. This is actually perfect timing. There's the Mafia in this town, right, on this block, and they'll, like, try and make you do, like, side quests for them, and if you don't do the side quests for them, they'll get mad at you, and your rating with them goes down. You have reputation ratings with the Mafia, the Crew, which is just every black person in the city, and then the police, which obviously you want your police rating to be good because you don't want to get fired or whatever the hell. The other two don't even seem to do anything negative, as far as I can tell for you, other than, like, they'll be mean to you. And, but here's the stupid thing, and they threaten you and stuff, but, like, it's never a big deal, because you can just always completely avoid ever interacting with either group by just not choosing to talk to them. Like, if you know that you don't want to do stupid side quests, which is just more clicking around on random shit, then it's like, no, I don't want to, I'm not going to do it. And so, therefore, I can just not talk to that person ever, and my reputation with them will just remain neutral forever. Like, it doesn't ever force you into a real situation where you might have to make a hard choice, and the few times it does try and do that, it's very awkward, and you have very binary choices which end up leading you to do things that you don't expect you're gonna do, like in a BioWare game. And it's like, it's freaking stupid. It's like, what? Anyway, it's always like, do you want to, like, freaking kill this person on the spot, or do you want to let them go? It's like, oh, what if I just want to do my job? Like, I don't believe that Jack Kelly's personality is such that he's incapable of just doing his job and not either killing someone or letting them go. Because those two things are polar opposites. So, anyway, that's part of it, right? But I think we praise these games too much. Oh, no, this is great. See, my daughter's gonna be at the pizza place. Now, for some reason, my, like, commanding officer in the military knows that my daughter is at the pizza place at 2 p.m. Like, why doesn't my daughter call me? It's always, like, just nothing in this game. It's like it's trying to be gritty and realistic, only it actually says in the beginning this is not meant to be realistic, it's meant to be like an 80s cop show. But it's like, the reason anyone cares about this game and anyone gave it any awards is they're like, oh, it, like, reflects all these things in society, right? And it has a unique gameplay structure that does a unique thing to tell a unique message. And it's like, well, what? Like, no one told me that, because it's just nothing like anything real, so why should I treat the game mechanics as though this is how it works in real life and how it feels in real life? You know what I mean? These types of games where they try and get you to empathize with someone, they're very powerful if they're actually believable and they actually tie you in and don't just feel like manipulative or awkward or extremely unsubtle to where you can just tell the developers saying to you what they want you to do. Anyway, it's ridiculous. Right now I'm just watching this guy breakdance. I'm looking for a cream car to go buy, because I know that eventually I'm going to have to find a cream car that belongs to the Mafia or whatever, and I'm going to have to search it. And that's a big deal when that happens. I think it's going to happen soon, but I don't know when it's going to happen. But when it happens, it's a big deal. Anyway, let me talk about the mechanics a little bit, because I've barely even talked about the mechanics. Basically, you click to do everything. Right now I'm clicking to advance this text, but it'll also auto-advance so that you can't read it, even though it's not, you know, your time isn't ticking down while you do this, so you might as well be able to take forever, but instead you just end up missing dialogue or, like, getting irritated, or you click it right after it auto-advances and you just skip a line entirely. There's literally no point for it, and you can't turn that off. Anyway, you tap once to move, and you tap another time to run to the location that you clicked. And if you double tap, you start running in that direction. Now, what you're gonna want to do most of the time is not go to a specific area unless you're going to a car, in which point you can just click the car. Most of the time you're just running up and down the street checking everything you see, or running after a perp, which we saw earlier but I didn't want to comment on. The whole thing's ridiculous. See, this guy's trying to roughneck me right now, but it's like, there's no choice I actually have to make here. I'm just told, oh, I should watch out, and then nothing happens. My rep doesn't change, there's no side quest, there's nothing. So it's like, is there gonna be any point in gameplay in which that relationship thing comes to a head? Like, there's 3 hours into the game, I've got like -60 with the crew or whatever the hell, and nothing's happened. So now I'm searching this car because I found the one, I checked the license plate or whatever the fuck. Now you look at this, and it's like, oh, it's one of these latent puzzles. It's not explained to you at all what you're supposed to do, and you're limited on time. The only reason you might know what you're supposed to do is because you've played Professor Layton or whatever the hell as a kid, because you were, you know, privileged enough to have special puzzly toys. But it's completely unresponsive, and you can see my mouse in the way these things are not moving. Just assume that I'm dragging constantly. Like, it's not... It doesn't move. You have to, like, move slow enough that it will understand and, like, move with you, but then also it's timed. So it's just broken! And this is an easy thing to make! I could make that and have it work. I can make that. That's not hard. That is easy. And they can't do it. And then when you fail, the punishment for failure is you just wait and then do it again. Like, and he says, like, oh, I'm gonna, fucking out in the open searching this car. Okay, he's just said I'm fucking beat. Never does anything. You have a stamina stat, never does anything. They try and trick you into wasting your money on food. Literally meaningless mechanic. Just shoehorned in for no reason. And then it's like, okay, you're a fucking police officer. Like, you can take 10 frickin' hours to do this. You shouldn't have limited moves to do it in, because you're a police officer. No one's gonna be suspicious of you checking their car. I mean, obviously they're going to, but you're a police officer, it's your fucking job. You pull your gun if someone tries to do something. Like, it's these unrealistic things. It's like, oh, it's very high stakes because you gotta do it quickly like they do in the real world. Like, that's not the actual case. And in the real world, there's not fucking drag mechanics that don't actually work. Now, my daughter is at the pizza place right now, and I hope I will think to go... Now, look, I think I was supposed to ticket that guy, but he's gone. So, like, I don't know what I was supposed to do there. None of the mechanics in this game are explained to you at all, except the fact that you have, like, a ticket quota, and you have to meet the ticket quota. It's real stupid. The whole thing's infuriating to me, really. It's just, like, the whole game is, like, a unique concept that hasn't been done before. And the thing that's really frustrating me is it feels like that concept is wasted on such a game. It's like No More Heroes 2 in the sense that it could have been something really cool with what it, like, just is by nature, but it just feels like there was no, like, life in it. Like, where's the joy in this gameplay? Where's the fun or the heart or the passion? You know what I mean? Like, I can tell whoever made this really cared about what they were doing and, like, wanted to do something great and put a lot of effort into it. You know, it's not easy making a game. But you do it, and... I mean, I don't have a problem with the fact that it exists. My problem is with the fact that this has won 1 million awards, and, like, from indie cons and stuff, and I feel like with indie games, we just have weird, messed up standards. Now, this is the story of this game. It's like, oh, you gotta reconnect with your daughter or something. Oh, she's still here, and then now there's a journalist. There's a whole scandal in this game where you, like, I guess killed a senator and stole the crown jewels of America or some shit. But for whatever reason, you're just allowed to work your job. You're just demoted. You're not detained or anything. There's no court hearing. You just, like, were framed and have to clear your head, but there's no... It just doesn't... It's an unrealistic, like, cartoon plot point that is not played to any effect. There's no effect of that on me emotionally, other than every now and then I gotta talk to my daughter, who I think looks really great. She looks, like, very innocent and small or whatever, and you can't see her face, and I love that. I think that's freaking cool. But it's like, that's all I get out of those cutscenes is seeing her, and it's like, the talking doesn't mean anything. The dialogue's, like, weird and vague and short, but also there's a million lines in this game that just mean absolutely nothing. And it's dog shit, man. Just talking for hours, the auto-advancing of the text. It's not okay with me that we're willing to call this, like, a great look into a certain lifestyle, when there are other people doing that and really selling something powerful. And I think if a AAA game did this, but with better graphics, a big soundtrack, just a ton of shit in it, and, like, you know, 10 million levels and a billion minigames and microtransactions and all that shit, we wouldn't have it! People would be up in arms if they were sold this as a AAA video game. Even if it was sold as a free-to-play, people would be up in arms. Even if it was a mobile game. But instead, it's like art. It's art, somehow. And it's not... I mean, obviously it's art, but I'm saying it's art in the sense that people who don't call everything art call things art. Like, oh, it's elevated, it says something meaningful, it's powerful. But it's not. It's like, first of all, I can't see the call tow button. That's down there on the cell phone next to the watch. It's a thing where I can tow people, and you can't even see it because it's blocked by my own thing. The window, this is the minimum window size of this game, if you want it to work. Anyway, it's just a poorly made game, and it just doesn't do what people... I feel like this is the real problem, is people look at a game like this, they give it an infinite amount of credit for the fact that, like, one dude probably made it. So they say, okay, let's disregard everything about actual quality and look at the intent here. Is the intent good? And the intent is good. The intent is something interesting and valuable, and something that should be preserved, and something that should be replicated. But it should be replicated with an amount of effort and an amount of creativity and you know, ability that leads to the idea really getting to shine. Not just being running back and forth, using weird mouse controls that don't work, clicking 3 times to fill out a thing. You could have so easily just had me use the WASD or the arrow keys to walk back and forth, and then use X or Z to, like, engage with something, and then open a menu that allows me to do all these things, including towing, and have, like, an X button which allows me to whip out my gun, and a C button that lets me whip out the handcuffs. There, I solved the game. That's it. But for whatever reason, it uses mouse controls, which are not, as far as I'm concerned, easier to program. Like, as far as I'm concerned, it seems like they went about this the harder way and got less out of it. Oh, by the way, there's like 10 minutes at the end where you just sit there waiting because you know your shift is over and you've done everything you have to do, and you're just waiting for the screen to fade out for like 5 minutes. And then at the end of the day, you see this screen, which I like, and it plays a good song, and it's like, oh, it's his desk, you get a view into his life, like he smokes cigars, he's eating sheep, because he's got to pay alimony and shit, he barely gets paid anything, he's got his gun right there, at a moment's notice he might need it, you know, I really like that. But then it's like, oh, you can't come up with alimony, and it's game over, that's it. You get an ending, and then suddenly, I become an activist. And I don't know why I've become an activist. I didn't do anything related to activism the entire game, but apparently that's the ending that this whole story was building towards. Like, supposedly, that's what not paying your alimony does to you. You become an activist. This is the dark future that awaits you. If you can't pay to support your children and your wife, and you live life irresponsibly and you do poorly at your job, you're gonna become an activist. And your life's gonna be over. And that's what Beat Cup says.